Dawn came like a slow breath over the red canyons, washing the land in a weary gold. The smoke of yesterday's battle still hung in the air, thin, bitter, curling from blackened sage and shattered wagons. Vultures circled where men had fallen, and somewhere, a horse neighed once and went quiet. Under the shadow of a cottonwood tree lay the man they had left behind. His name, once spoken with fear and reverence, was Tahuare, the Red Hawk of the Comanche. He had led warriors and faced bullets with songs on his lips, but now there was no song, no tribe, only the whisper of wind through the canyon and the rasp of his broken breath. His side bled slow, dark, steady. His face was streaked with dust, his eyes half open to the endless sky. The land itself seemed to hold him, not ready to bury him yet. The old spirits, maybe, had chosen to keep him breathing a little longer. He dreamed of firelight and drums, of his mother's voice singing to the stars. He saw a hawk circling, the spirit guide of his people, and in that hazy place between life and death, he whispered a word in Comanche that meant, "Wait," and the land did. Far off, beyond the canyon, a small figure climbed the ridge, her feet bare and dusty. Ellie Mae Carter, 9 years old, daughter of Jacob and Marybelle from the Carter Ranch, had come chasing the bleating cry of a lost goat. Her hair was the color of late wheat, tangled and wind-whipped. In one hand, she held a dented tin cup. In the other, a crust of bread she'd saved from breakfast. The world was still soft to her eyes, not yet shaped by fear. She stopped near the cottonwood, where the dust turned dark, too dark. Her breath hitched when she saw him. A man, not white. Brown skin painted with dirt and blood, feathers tangled in his hair, a wound in his chest that looked as big as her fist. Her first thought was to run. But she didn't. Something in his stillness made her stay. A strange, sorrowful pull, like seeing a bird with a broken wing. His eyes fluttered open, and for a heartbeat, their worlds met. He didn't move, just watched her. And she saw, not the monster her father talked about, but a man who was tired. So tired, Ellie knelt beside him, trembling. The tin cup shook in her hand as she dipped it in a shallow puddle nearby. She lifted it to his cracked lips. "Here," she whispered. That he flinched at first, then drank, slow and weak. His breath shuddered back into him. She tore a strip from her apron and dabbed the blood from his forehead the way her mother did when Pa got a cut mending fences. His voice came low and broken, words she couldn't understand, shaped from another world. But his eyes thanked her. Somewhere beyond the ridge came the distant sound of hooves, men riding. Ellie looked toward the noise, then back at the dying man. She didn't know why she did it, but she dragged a piece of brush, a fallen branch, and covered him, whispering, "Don't make a sound." When the riders appeared, their horses kicking up dust, she stood small and straight, clutching her cup. "You seen anything, girl?" One of the men called. She shook her head, heart pounding. "Just my goat, mister. He run that way." They rode on, laughing, spitting into the dirt. When they were gone, she turned back to the cottonwood. The man hadn't moved, but his eyes followed her. "You're not dying today, mister," she said softly, and smiled for the first time. That night, the ranch was full of noise, men talking of vengeance and raids. Her father, Jacob, sat at the table, a jug of whiskey at his elbow. "They got Red Hawk good, I heard," he said. "Left him to rot like he deserves." Marybelle stirred the stew, her face pale in the firelight. "Let the Lord handle what's his," she murmured. Ellie sat silent, small fingers tracing the wood grain of the table. Her stomach ached with the weight of the secret. Her father's boots thumped on the floorboards as he stood. "If he's still breathing, I'll finish it myself." When the lanterns went out, Ellie lay awake, the sound of coyotes far off. Mercy felt heavy in her chest, heavier than sin. She rose when the house was quiet and slipped barefoot into the night, her little hands holding a crust of bread and her mother's old quilt. The stars hung low, and the moon made silver out of the canyon edges. Tahuare was still there, though his breathing was rough. She draped the quilt over him, pressing the bread into his hand. His voice came rough, in broken English this time. "You little ghost?" She smiled shyly. "No, sir. Ellie." He looked at her like her name was something sacred. Then he said, "Thank you." She nodded. "You don't tell nobody I was here." He coughed a small laugh. "No one believe." When she turned to go, he said, "Why you help?" She thought for a long moment. her hair blowing across her face. "'Cause you look like nobody would." In the pale light, the man closed his eyes, not in pain this time, but in peace. She hid his knife under the brush before leaving, just in case someone found the place. That be why the time she reached home. The horizon was pink. The old soul's voice, the narrator of time itself, drifts in like a sigh. Two souls met in the shadow of the same wound. One too small to understand hate, the other too tired to carry it. And mercy, like a spark in dry grass, began to burn quietly, waiting for the wind. The land slept, but something had already changed beneath its silence. Days passed, and the air grew heavy with heat. Down in the canyon, the wounded man began to drift between fever and dreams. The wound on his side had darkened, and flies hovered near the bandage of torn cloth. Ellie returned whenever she could, her steps soft, her eyes wide with both fear and faith. That morning, when she brought water and bread, she found him shivering though the sun burned bright. His lips moved without sound. She didn't understand the words, but she felt the meaning. "I'm leaving." "No," she whispered fiercely, setting her small hands on his chest. "You ain't." When the sound of footsteps rustled behind her, Ellie froze. Her mother stood at the edge of the brush, the wind lifting her shawl. Marybelle's face went pale as bone when she saw the Comanche lying there, the blood, the child kneeling. For a long moment, no one spoke. The canyon wind filled the silence like a prayer. Finally, Marybelle took a step forward, her voice shaking. "Lord have mercy. What have you done, child?" Ellie looked up, eyes shining. "He was dying, Mama. I couldn't just leave him." Marybelle dropped to her knees beside her daughter, torn between terror and awe. The man's skin burned with fever. He didn't look like the savage her husband had described. He looked like a man between worlds. She took the rag from Ellie's hand and dipped it in the cup, pressing it to his forehead. "You'll bring ruin on us, girl," she whispered, tears gathering. "Your pa finds out, we're both as good as dead." But she didn't stop helping. For an hour, mother and daughter worked in silence, their hands gentle, their fear trembling in every breath. When Tahuare stirred, his gaze met Marybelle's, and something passed between them. Understanding, sorrow, a wordless apology from one soul to another. When they left, she turned to Ellie and said, "This ends tonight. You hear? You don't come back here again." But the next day, Ellie did a tea home. Jacob Carter had grown restless. He noticed the missing bread, the water bucket drained too soon, the herbs gone from his wife's cupboard. His voice thundered through the kitchen, slamming against the walls. "There's a savage still breathing out there. I can feel it." Marybelle froze at the stove, her hands gripping the spoon. Ellie sat stiff in her chair, trying to swallow down fear. Jacob strapped his gun belt tight and grabbed his hat. "I'll find him before sundown." The screen door banged behind him. Ellie waited until his horse's hoofbeats faded down the ridge, then slipped out the back. The sky hung low and gray. She ran, her heart pounding so hard it hurt, her breath catching in the hot wind. From the canyon rim, she saw her father below, his figure moving slow, searching, the rifle glinting in the light. She bit her lip to keep from crying out that Tahuare, it wasn't where she'd left him. Panic seized her until she spotted movement in the rocks. He had crawled deeper into the shadows, dragging himself inch by inch. When Jacob dismounted near the brush, Ellie scrambled down, nearly slipping. Her small voice rang out, high and nervous, "Pa, there's a snake." Jacob turned, eyes narrowing. "What snake?" She pointed the other way, trembling. "It went that way, I swear." He cursed under his breath, scanning the ground, then spat. "Best keep clear of this place, girl." She nodded, holding her breath until he rode off. When he was gone, she found Tahuare watching her. His smile was faint but full of quiet pride. "You brave," he murmured. Ellie sank beside him, tears streaking the dust on her cheeks. "He would have killed you." He nodded. "He killed me once already. You bring me back." He handed her a small carving made of cedar, a hawk, its wings spread wide. "Spirit bird," he said. "It's see all." She turned it over in her palm, awed. "It's beautiful." He smiled again, and for the first time, it reached his eyes. Over the next week, the man healed. Slowly, painfully, he managed to stand, leaning on a stick he'd carved himself. He showed her how to listen for the wind's direction, how to tell when rain would come, how to see trails where others saw only rocks. In return, she taught him words: bread, home, safe. Some friendships, the old soul's voice whispers, are born in silence, beneath the noise of men. But silence in a small town never lasts long. One evening, a trapper came through town with stories. Said he saw smoke rising from the canyon. Said maybe the Red Devil was still alive down there. Sheriff Brigg gathered men right away, Jacob among them. "We'll finish what was started," the sheriff said, striking a match for his cigar. Ellie was at the general store, hidden behind barrels of flour, when she heard. Her heart turned to ice. That night, clouds rolled in thick and low. Thunder walked across the plains. She ran. Through the mud, through the rain. She ran with the hawk carving clutched in her fist. Her breath came sharp, her dress soaked through. The storm split open the sky as she reached the canyon and cried out, "They're coming. Please go." Tahuara stood at the fire he'd made, the flames licking high in the wind. He turned, calm as the mountain. "I not run," he said. "I stand. They'll kill you." She sobbed. "You have to go." He shook his head. "I run my whole life. No more." And then the thunder came, not from the sky, but from the ridge. The posse rode down, torches burning, shouts echoing off the rock. Jacob's voice rose above them all. "There he is." Tahuara stepped forward, limping but proud. His hands lifted, empty. Rain streaked his face. But before any man could move, Ellie ran into the open, standing between him and the guns, her arms spread wide. "No." Jacob froze. The sheriff shouted, "Get her out of the way." But Jacob couldn't move. His little girl, standing there in the storm, her dress plastered to her skin, her eyes bright with something he hadn't seen since his wife was young. Courage, pure and wild. "He's not what you think," she cried. "He's just a man." The thunder cracked. A shot went off, wild, blind. The bullet tore through the rain and grazed Tahuara's arm. He staggered but stayed upright. Ellie screamed. Jacob lowered his rifle, the echo of the shot still ringing in his ears. His hand shook. He looked at his daughter, then at the man she'd risked her life for. Tahuara spoke softly, blood mingling with rain. "Your daughter saved me. That is more than any warrior could do." Jacob's face crumpled. A man undone by truth, he took out his knife, stepped forward, and cut the rope Sheriff Brigg had raised to bind the Comanche's hands. "Let him go," he said hoarsely. "Ain't no justice in killing what mercy's already claimed." The sheriff sputtered, angry, but no one moved. The rain drowned every word. One by one, the men turned their horses away, torches sputtering in the downpour. When they were gone, Tahuara looked once more at Ellie. "Little ghost," he said, smiling through the pain. "You bring life where death belongs." She reached out and took his hand, small and warm against the roughness of his palm, but he nodded once, then turned into the rain and vanished into the wild, the storm swallowing him whole. Weeks later, when the land dried and the dust returned, Ellie woke to find something on her windowsill, a small wooden hawk, wings spread, carved from cedar. Her father said nothing, but she saw him trace it with his thumb when he thought no one was looking. Years later, when she was grown and the world had changed, Ellie still kept that carving beside her bed. When asked why, she'd smile and say, "It's from the day mercy came to visit." And the old soul's voice returns one last time. We think we teach our children right from wrong, but sometimes it's their small hands that show us the way back to grace. Remember this, traveler, when the world tells you who's worth saving, listen to your heart instead. Grace never asks permission. It just arrives, quiet as dawn, and stays long enough to change everything.